Hello, everyone, and welcome in. I wanted to do a special twin flame reading today for the 777 portal. So, as you may know, with it being July 7th, 2023, which 2023 adds up to a 7, today is a particularly strong energetic portal. It has to do a lot with spirituality and kind of that spiritual growth and deeper understanding. So, I wanted to do a twin flame reading for you today. So first we're going to look at the divine feminine energy and then the divine masculine energy and then the bridging connection, and then do a little bit of some oracle cards and see what comes up. So let's go ahead and dive in. So we'll start off, like I said, with the divine feminine energy and see what's going on in the world of divine feminines. All right. So first, as our push from the universe, Queen of Wands, and then how you're showing up in the 3D, the Nine of Wands in reverse, how you're showing up in the soul space, Two of Wands in reverse, the challenge card is the Eight of Swords, and then advice from Spirit is King of Cups in reverse, and then the likely outcome is the Five of Cups. So as we're sitting here looking at your advice or your push from the universe, the Queen of Wands. So the push here is that the universe wants you to be joyful and to be confident and be courageous. And that's really what you're being pushed towards right now. How you're showing up in terms of your Nine of Wands in reverse, it's kind of that sense of exhaustion and stalemate, and just I feel like there's really been a lot of heavy energy lately. So the universe wants you to be happy and joyful, but right now you've just kind of hit a little bit of that exhausted state in the 3D sense. And how you're showing up in your soul space with this Two of Wands in reverse, some of this is kind of I guess a failure to plan, or there's some indecision there, not really knowing what direction to go. So almost like you've been trying so hard to get things to go in a certain direction that at a soul level you're kind of confused. Is this the time to take a step back, or is it the time to kind of double down and really sink in and lean into this experience? So the challenge right now is the Eight of Swords. So the Eight of Swords in the typical deck, in the Rider-Waite deck, the character is blindfolded and there's these swords around them. So you can see the swords kind of below her in this card. So here, kind of bringing that in a little bit closer for you. But again, that sense of feeling like you're trapped, kind of that sense of anxiety. So even within this card, even though there's the Eight Swords there, six of them are already kind of on the ground beneath the divine feminine. So she's still holding two of them. So there's a little bit of holding on to something that's maybe keeping you trapped a little bit. But in this deck, you can see the owl, which the owl's eyes here, and that's a sign of wisdom. And so even though there is that sense of feeling trapped, there's the optimism here of you are starting to see something a little bit more clearly. So that's your challenge, is how do you break free of this, I'll call it self-imposed prison that you've put yourself in. So the advice from Spirit with your King of Cups in reverse is, the King of Cups in reverse is really about kind of that manipulation, worry, stress, like that kind of low vibe. So in terms of that being advice from Spirit, really Spirit is saying you need to get out of that low vibe. You need to stop worrying. The challenge that you're seeing is really not as much of a prison as you think. So the advice from Spirit is put confidence in the divine. The divine wants you to be happy, and they want you to be joyful and courageous. So you need to stop worrying so much about what's happening right now in the 3D in front of you, and just have that faith, that confidence that something is happening behind the scenes. It's happening in the 5D for you. And you just have to have a little bit of patience and work yourself out of this kind of self-imposed prison. And when you do that, the likely outcome, and with this being the 5 of Cups, that is a card that's usually kind of tied to grief, or it can be tied to grief, I should say. So normally that's kind of, he's looking back like, oh, look at all of these things that he's had to leave behind, this figure. But there is a sense of optimism as well. So even though he's looking back at, oh, these are the things I've left behind, this is in the night. And so the sun will come up the next day and there will be this ability to move on. But in order to get to that point, you have to kind of stop worrying, stop trying to manipulate the situation or turn it in a direction that you think it should go, and have faith in the divine that it's leading you down a path that you're supposed to be going on. The path that's going to bring you that happiness, that's going to bring you that courage. So that's what I'm seeing here for Divine Feminine. Let's take a look at Divine Masculine and what's happening with Divine Masculine. Let's see what cards come out for what's happening in Divine Masculine's headspace. Okay, so the push from the universe is Ace of Swords in reverse. How you're showing up in the 3D is the 10 of Swords. How you're showing up in the soul space is the King of Swords. Your challenge card is the 8 of Wands in reverse. The advice from Spirit is the Death card, and the likely outcome is the 4 of Wands. So this part here is beautiful, but not to skip ahead. So with the Ace of Swords in reverse, this is saying that there's a lot of confusion and you're kind of losing focus, and there's a little bit of this, I'll call it chaos, because in the upright position, this would be new projects and you have that clarity and that breakthrough moment in your thoughts. But with it being in reverse, it's kind of more of that haziness and maybe not knowing what to do. So the universe is saying, this is where we see you. How do we help you get past that? Because how you're showing up in the 3D right now is 10 of Swords. So you're kind of spent, from a thought perspective, you're exhausted, you're defeated. You've been thinking things over and over and over again, and it's just kind of one of those exhaustion points. But how you're showing up in the 5D or in the soul space, the King of Swords position, that's really that authority figure, so you're really in control of things in the soul space. So it's like, what you want to do. It's just a matter of that's not how you're showing up in the 3D. So there's been that decision that's been made at the soul level as to how you want to go and what you want to do. It's just a matter of pushing that through into the 3D to make that your actual reality. Your challenge here is it's bad timing, honestly. So there's obstacles to overcome. There's kind of this slowness to it. Maybe you've missed some opportunities here. So you've decided what you want to do, and in looking back on it, there's probably areas where you've missed a chance to be able to move yourself forward in your path, in your journey, to be able to step out into your truth. So that's kind of your challenge, is how do you get your timing back? How do you kind of reclaim that power and not let life be happening to you, and actually proactively move yourself in the right direction? So interesting here with advice from Spirit being the Death card, that's really about your transformation and about changes. And so with the Death card showing up as advice, that's saying, in your soul space, what it is that you want to do. What you've been doing in the 3D is just burning yourself up, running yourself kind of into the ground to the point of exhaustion, doing what you have been doing, and that hasn't made you happy. So advice from Spirit is let it go. Let things change. Let your situation unfold differently. Stop trying to direct things in the 3D the way that you have been doing it, because this has been the result of your efforts in the 3D. So let it go. Let that part go. Let the transformation happen, and your likely outcome is going to be this happiness. It's going to be this celebration, this joyful occasion. So, and this, whenever this card shows up in a twin flame reading, this is your twin flame number, your 1111. This is that union. This is that happiness. So Spirit is saying you will get there. You're going to get to your happy union place, but you have to let go of something else first. You have to let this transition, this transformation happen. You have to let that be what it's going to be. Especially on the twin flame journey, that's a destined and fated event and situation. So stop trying to fight it. Stop letting your ego come in and tell you how to do things. Put the ego aside and let things unfold the way they're supposed to. So that's a beautiful message there for the Divine Masculine. Now we'll take a look at your connection. And so this is kind of that bridging energy and that connection. And we'll see what that looks like. All right, so push from the universe is Temperance. How the connection is showing up in the 3D is Six of Pentacles. How it's showing up in the soul space is Hanged Man. Your challenge is King of Swords, which, look at that. So King of Swords has shown up. Did it show up? Oh, I thought it showed up in the Divine Feminine. It did not. But so you have King of Swords as your challenge. And then the push from the universe, or advice from Spirit, is your Ten of Cups in reverse. And then your likely outcome is the Moon in reverse. So taking a look at these. So with your Temperance card, so that's the advice there is kind of a little bit of that caution, that balance, and how do you achieve that? So that's something that you want to kind of take things slowly. You don't want to end up rushing the connection if you're not at that point yet. So you do want to make sure that it's all in divine timing, which that will happen. So you're trying to get to that point of harmony. Your Six of Pentacles, how the connection is currently showing up in the 3D, that's that generous, helpful type of energy. So, I mean, when you look at the card, there's all of these blessings here, and they're all sharing in them. So that's a good sign that things are starting to progress in the 3D. And then when we look at the Hanged Man as how you're showing up in the soul space, so that's a lot of kind of pondering of things. You're reflecting on it. The souls are really kind of looking at how can we make this all come together? How is this going to happen? So on the connection side, there's a lot of thinking and trying to see things from a different angle, and how can this connection continue to move forward. So the challenge, though, is this kind of authority and discipline and rationality. So that's going to be a little bit of a challenge, because there's obviously obstacles, otherwise you would already be in union. So there's some obstacles there that need to be overcome, and a lot of that is going to be trying to kind of reframe your mental framework around the connection, and how do we get that into that good, happy place. So advice from Spirit then, with the Ten of Cups in reverse. So this card is about kind of some I guess, lack of harmony, trouble at home and family issues and that sort of feeling. So when we look at that as being the kind of advice from spirit, if that's what's happening, I think that's spirit's way of saying that in order to get to the, that connection, you are going to have some, I guess, upset at home. So anytime you're transitioning from one situation to another, there's going to be some bumps in the road. There's going to be a little bit of a disruption in the apple cart, but it's a matter of if you allow that to happen now, then the blessings in store can come in sooner. So kicking the can down the road indefinitely because you don't want to upset anybody is not going to help your situation improve. It's just going to continue this stalemate. It's going to continue this, kind of rut that you're already in. So with the likely outcome being the moon in reverse, usually the moon is about, when it's in the upright, it's more about deception and a little bit of, I guess I'll call it like trickery or illusions and, what's not being shown. And actually, when you look at this, if you're familiar with with Alice in Wonderland and then the walrus and the carpenter, they're trying to essentially trick the oysters into coming along and then they eat them. So this being in reverse as the likely outcome means there's going to be some clarity to the connection. There's going to be more, I guess, call it honesty or openness to the connection that's going to come as a result of some of these changes that are happening. So that card coming up in reverse is optimistic there, that you're going to have some more clarity. You're going to have a little bit more openness, honesty, be able to see what's happening. Let's do a few oracle cards. So since this part is talking about the connection, we'll do the romance cards first. So let's pull an oracle card here on the romance and see what message comes up. Flirt. Extend your lighthearted energy to others. So that's a really good one, especially if the connection's been in this kind of hanged man state where it's a lot of thinking and, you're trying to see things from all different angles. Sometimes that energy just gets to be too heavy. So this here is a great reminder of, to work on keeping it lighthearted and have that flirty, playful energy that you had during the bubble phase. So let's take a look at, these are our soul journey affirmation cards, and we'll start with one for the divine feminine. Let's see, divine feminine, this one's yours. Empathy. I'm open to seeing both sides of a situation. So that's a really good card for divine feminine. There's a lot of times there's this, and these are generalizations. So with the divine feminine, there's this sense of, that chasing energy and, well, why doesn't divine masculine just come into the connection? And so sometimes, especially in some of the different groups that I'm in, I'll read the comments and it's kind of like, oh, DM's just running, DM's doing this. And this is a great card to remind the divine feminine to see things from divine masculine's perspective. And I saw a really great post the other day talking about, the feminine needs to respect and understand the leadership that's being shown by their DMs. So every time that you feel like your DM is pushing you away or is doing something, trust in the leadership that's being done for a reason. And I'm not saying that they're consciously saying to themselves, well, I'm going to, run, or I'm going to ghost the DF. I'm going to ghost her because I just don't want to talk to her. I don't think it's deliberately being done, but I think at the subconscious level, there's reasons for it, because that's obviously a wound that you have not healed yet. So trust in your masculine that what they're doing will create the healing and the change that you need to see within yourself from a growth and an enlightenment perspective. So I love that empathy card coming up. I thought that was a great post when I read it the other day about trust in the leadership of the DM. And here's the DM's card for Soul Journey. Doubt. I release the need to know all the answers. So I feel like that's a good one for the DMs, because a lot of times, this will be kind of stereotypically, the masculines, they're the ones that are going back and forth in their head about the connection. Like they know that it's there, they want to go towards their feminine, but other doubts are creeping in. And well, what if I do this and then this happens? What if I do this and then this doesn't happen the way I think? Or what if I go towards the feminine and she, rejects me? So there's all these kind of doubts, I think, that play into their thinking when they're considering the connection. And so this is a great reminder for the masculine. You don't need to know all the answers. It's about having faith in the process, trusting in the process, putting your faith in God, the divine, the universe, that this connection is kind of a destined and fated connection, and you don't need all of the answers up front. Just have that faith that this is the right path to go on. And I saw something one time, it was a quote, something about you don't need to be able to see your destination to take a step down the right path. So they use the example of, if you're sitting in, call it Chicago, and you want to drive to Austin, you don't have to be able to see Austin to point your car south and start driving in that direction. You know that it's there. You know you're going to get there. You may have to make some adjustments along the route, but you don't have to be able to see the final destination to know what direction you need to go to get there. So kind of that same thing. You don't need, masculines, you don't need to be able to see the final destination to know what path you need to take to get there. So, and then we'll pull a couple of moon cards here. All right, so the Moon Oracle. And this is a great one. For full moon in Libra, a win-win outcome is forecast. So this is kind of that, reminder from the universe that the outcome is going to be a win-win. Not commenting here on timing as to when that would happen, but, trust that within this connection, even though there's these tough cycles where there's the triggering and there's the healing, trust that it's a win-win. Ultimately, the universe wants you to come together. They want you to be happy and joyful and high vibration and spreading that kind of unconditional love. So trust that this is a win-win outcome is in the forecast, and move forwards with kind of patience and understanding, and trust that things are going in the right direction eventually, even if your path kind of has to wander and go off course a little and then come back on course. Trust that destination is out there. Even if you can't see it yet, trust that you're on the right path to getting there. So I hope this has been helpful for you, and I'll be doing the regular card pulls for the signs in the morning, but I wanted to go ahead and do this twin flame reading for the 777 portal. So I will do another one of these again in a few weeks, and until then, we'll do the dailies. So best wishes on your path, and lots of love and blessings for you.